Wilson. Hey, we're on day 2 of FCA football camp and our sports camp. And hopefully after day 1, you actually went and did some of the drills that were posted, that I come up with, the football drills that are on there. Okay. So let's review what we talked about yesterday in day 1. So day 1, yesterday, we talked about 100% God, sacrifice. And we talked about John 3:16, in that God sacrificed his son for us. And that is definitely God giving us 100%. So let's talk about day 2 here. And today's topic and title is 100% self. Surrender. Okay? So let's talk about surrendering, or submitting to things. Well, in terms of athletics, you must submit and or surrender to your coach. So for example, your coach tells you what to do in workouts, whether it be agility, conditioning, weight training. He has a plan for you, and you submit to that, or you should submit to that, and do what your coach tells you to do. You submit and surrender in practice. Your coach has a practice plan. Your coach tells you what to do during practices. He tells you skills and concepts and things to work on, and you practice those things and you do those things. Game plans. Your coach, you submit and surrender to his game plan. It's the coach that comes up with the plays and certain ways to stop their offense, certain ways to stop their defense, and those things. A game strategy. So during the game, your coach is calling the plays, telling you what to do. And if I can make a little comment about that, is that whether you disagree or not, because that's what surrendering means and submitting means, is that you do what your coach tells you to do. And whether you think it's right or wrong, whether your parents think it's right or wrong, it's the best decision or not, you do what your coach tells you to do. And I always say this during FCA football camp, especially during the drills that we do. Sometimes coaches may have a different way of doing certain drills or doing certain things, or they might, and coaches disagree on how to do some things. So what you need to do is, when you play football for your coach, you need to do what he says, and not necessarily maybe what I said to do during a drill or during football camp or whatever. So you need to submit and you need to surrender to your coach. Besides surrendering and submitting to your coach, what you do when you do this, you're actually serving your coach and you're actually serving your teammates. And that's a big deal. Serving. Not being selfish. Serving other people. A lot of times people think that when you surrender to something or to somebody, that it's a sign of weakness. Well, I'm going to tell you that in cases when you surrender to principles and principled people that have your best intentions in mind, and people that know what you want to know, when you surrender to those, that you actually gain strength. You gain strength when you surrender to principles. Principles that come about, what I believe, through God. Honesty, serving, respect. those things, integrity, when you surrender to those things and you surrender to principled people that have your best intentions in mind, so people that love you, that care for you, or they want what's best for you. And then there's people out there that know what you want to know. If you want to know something, go find somebody that knows what you want to know. Submit to them, surrender to them, and listen to them, and do the things that they say to do. Surrender to people that know what you want to know. That's a big deal. Again, people want to just sometimes learn through experience. No, how about talking to somebody and listening to somebody? I'm telling you that you can gain strength through this. So a good example, a lot of times I used to use these examples with my football players. For example, racehorses. Okay, that's kind of weird. But, okay, this is just me. When I see, and I'm watching TV, I'm watching the Kentucky Derby, or I'm doing something, and I see these horses as they're walking before they get into the gate and run, I'm talking they are these huge, majestic animals, and their muscles are just like rippling with every step. To me, when I see these horses, I'm just in awe of these horses. Just the way they look and how fast they run, and like I said, it's just you can see every muscle in their legs and in their butt and in their, I don't know. To me, I just use this example just because I'm in awe of those horses. But they wouldn't have got that way if they wouldn't have surrendered to the trainers and jockeys. The ones, and even the ones that lose, but the ones that win, they would have never got to the winner's circle if they hadn't have surrendered to their trainers and their jockeys. Mike Tyson. Most everybody here thinks of Mike Tyson, or if you know who Mike Tyson is, you probably think of him as maybe kind of this guy that has like tattoos on his face and was in that one movie or whatever with the tiger. But when I was growing up, when I was younger, well, I was grown up, but I was younger, Mike Tyson was the baddest dude I'd ever seen. And people were literally afraid of him. He was so fierce, so strong. But if he wouldn't have surrendered to his trainers and managers, in fact, the first trainer that he had, and probably the best trainer that he had, the one that Mike Tyson actually did surrender to and submit to, his name was Cus D'Amato. He was this little old man that knew a lot about boxing, but he was this little old man, and he was training in my opinion, the baddest dude that was on earth, Mike Tyson at that time. Mike Tyson surrendered to him. So the point is that Mike Tyson gained strength by surrendering. I could go on and on. The list is endless about the number of people and examples of when you submit or surrender, you can gain strength. Okay? There's a lot of people out there, and in fact, I think that the world teaches this. I'm a rebel. I do my own thing. I know what's best. I don't listen or submit to no one or no one thing because I'm a rebel and I'm tough and I'm this and I'm that. And again, I think that's what our world teaches sometimes, that you want to be a rebel, that you know what's best. Well, I used to tell my football players this. My contention is, if you don't surrender or submit to something good, or to someone good, or things that are good, principles or principled people, or things that or to people that of what you want to know, if you don't surrender to good, then you will someday surrender to something bad. That person who says, I'll surrender and submit to nothing, nobody, no thing, I'm my own man, I'm a rebel, I'm this, I'm that, you at one point in your life, or many times during your life, you will surrender to something. And it might not be to your choosing. So for people to say that I'm not going to submit, or I know what's best for me, and I'm my own guy, I'm this and I'm that, and I'm not going to surrender or submit to no one or no thing, well, guess what? You're just lying to yourself, because you will surrender to something. And it probably ain't something that you want to surrender to. When you surrender, you not only gain strength and serve yourself, but you serve others. You are actually serving your coaches, your parents, your bosses, your friends, and your relatives when you surrender and submit yourself to them. I'm going to repeat that. When you surrender, you not only gain strength and serve yourself, but you serve others. This is so important. And in fact, besides loving God, your job is to serve others. When Jesus was on this earth, he was a servant leader. Of course, he's the leader. The most influential man in the history of the world. I would call that a leader, but he was a servant. So, for example, he fed the masses in Matthew 14, 13 through 21. He healed the sick in Matthew 8, 1 through 15. He protected his disciples in Matthew 8, 23 through 27. And he delivered the possessed. When he was on this earth, he served people. And those are just a few examples. The whole Gospels is about him serving. So he did all those things, but check this out. This is in John 13, 4 and 5. So he got up from the table, took off his robe, wrapped a towel around his waist, and poured water into a basin. Then he began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he had around him. I'm going to mention another thing here. He did this very shortly before he was crucified.